Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing another comic book review. Today we're looking at Paper Girls Volume 1. This is by Brian K. Vaughan with Cliff Chang as the artist, with Matt Wilson as a colorist, and Jared K. Fletcher as the letterer. This is published by Image. The demographic here is adult as far as I can tell, at least I would consider it adult. And the genres here are sci-fi and time travel, and I guess there's some sort of like coming of age story element as well, so it would be that too. And adaptations wise, it does have a single season of television. I think it was on Hulu. It was created, published, and then immediately canceled because it didn't seem to work out properly. I guess people didn't like it, although I think that might have been mostly the way that the industry created the work, because the way that this is structured, the way this reads, feels like it's very in line with stuff that fans of Stranger Things would like. And the fact that it managed to not hit that audience means that there was an issue with how it was adapted more so than, or maybe with how it was marketed more so than how it was made. But I haven't seen it, so I'm not really sure, right? In terms of a rating for this book, it's a 5 out of 5. Not only for this volume, because this is the only one I've read. There's 6 volumes total, and I had thought about doing this as a first impressions review, but I think that there's too much to cover here for that to be the case. So I think I'm just going to be reviewing this series one volume at a time as we go through the whole series, and then at the end, maybe in a couple months after I finish reading it, I'll come back, reread the whole thing, and then give you a proper review thought process on the whole series as a whole, right? So yeah, but that's it for kind of talking about that. Let's talk about the premise here. Basically, this is about 4 or 5 young paper delivery girls, which is a kind of outdated concept at this point, who are on their morning track, I guess you could call it, on their morning, job around town. And as they're doing this, they end up finding a spaceship that then turns out to be a time machine, and then all hell kind of breaks loose. There seems to be some sort of apocalypse or some sort of revelation, I guess, kind of like it's very much not biblically coded, but it does kind of have that vibe to it, where it's like, oh, the apocalypse came, everyone's about to be sent up into heaven, and revelation is coming. It feels almost like that, even though it's more sci-fi, if that makes sense. And there's some timey-wimey shit that goes kind of insane, and it's pretty cool. I did enjoy it. I think the artwork isn't necessarily my favorite, but the concept of the story is pretty good, and the execution is quite well done. So let's move on here to the plotline here. It opens up with this main character, Erin, who is the new paper girl, who has this crazy dream. She thinks about the tree of knowledge, and she wakes up at 4:40 a.m., and it's time for paper delivery, and so she goes out with the other girls. She meets up with them as she's being messed with by older kids. Some older kids are bullying her, and the rest of the paper girls show up, and they kind of help her beat them back, right? And so they head off together. They end up splitting up into 2 groups, and then somehow end up finding this spaceship in a basement. There's more to it. It feels very linear and very well executed. I just don't want to give away all of the details behind it, right? And so they end up in this basement. One of them gets zapped, and then when they get back outside, it seems like some ninjas and some other people are around, and they're doing stuff, and people are kind of going crazy and disappearing and kind of floating up into the sky. And so the girls fight these ninjas, and they reveal that these people are some sort of deformed humans. And then the girls go to Mac's house, Mac being the leader of the paper girls, the first girl to ever become a paper boy, basically. And she's kind of like their hero, but also their leader. And she has this kind of very negative attitude, right? And so she arrives at her house with the rest of the girls in tow. And it turns out that there's a portal, and some dragons, actually they're pterosaurs, come down from it. And they see this as they're arriving to Mac's house. Once they're inside, they see her stepmom, who's trying to commit suicide because her husband has just been sent up into heaven and she was not chosen or whatever, and she thinks that there's nothing left for her. And at this point, we have a very kind of poignant and meaningful situation between Mac and her stepmom, where Mac finally admits that this lady is her mother, that she cares about her, and that she doesn't want her to go. And so they save her. They try to stop her from committing suicide, and as they do, the gun fires, and it hits Erin in the stomach, I think. And so the girls now have to find a way to save Erin. They try to rush out in her stepmom's car and Max's stepmom's car to try to get her to the hospital, but they realize that that's not going to make a difference. And so the ninjas, the deformed humans, kind of show up out of nowhere, and they're like, hey, we can help her. Just let us put her in this time machine, right? And as this is happening, Aaron is having a really weird-ass dream. I think Ronald Reagan shows up in it. I'm not really sure what the significance is there. I think that's a specific thing to Brian K. Vaughan into what it was like for him growing up. I don't really understand what the significance of Reagan is in this case. But the girls get stopped by one of these future knights. The ninjas show up and attack, and they promise to help the girls. And then we get the situation where the future knight calls up like their leader, who's the cardinal, and it turns out to be some sort of guru kind of guy. He kind of looks like a, I don't know, like a yogi or something, right? And well, Aaron is saved by the ninjas. They die saving her, and she comes back inside the ship. And so it all loops back to the beginning of the book where the girls found the ship. They go back to it, and inside of it is Aaron. And then the girls are reunited. The guru shows up, and the ship or the time machine explodes, and then something happens, and they get shafted off into the future. And maybe it's not the future. Maybe it's a different dimension or something, because they meet an adult Aaron who doesn't recognize any of these girls. And it's a very what the fuck ending. And it was really cool. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought this was really well done. It's a bit confusing, and it takes a while for you to understand, but eventually you're like, okay, I get what's happening. I understand it. Let's move on and see where it goes. And it goes in a pretty interesting way. It goes pretty cool. And I did like it a lot. So I'm definitely going to read more of this. I just don't know when that is. I don't necessarily feel like the rush to read more of it, especially a few weeks out from having read it. But at the moment, I was like, damn, I gotta pick up the next book. I just managed to stop myself and read something else because I wanted to read as much as I could, or like width-wise, breadth-wise, instead of like deep into a single series, right? Mostly because that's what I was trying to do in February. And I think I succeeded, so that's good. But yeah, in terms of characters, we have Aaron, Mackenzie, KJ, and Tiffany. And I think there's another one, but I can't remember her name. And then we have the Ninja Boys, who are called the teenagers. And then the Space Knights, who are called the old timers. And I don't understand the distinction here. But I assume it has to do with the time traveling mechanic, so we'll see. But Aaron's the main character. Mackenzie is the main paper girl. KJ and Tiffany are support characters. The Ninja Boys are relevant for the introduction of the faction, if you want to call it that, but they die, both of them. And the Space Knights are not relevant. Like, none of them are a specific character yet, if that makes sense, except for the Guru, the Cardinal. In terms of world building, it's very unclear. Lots of time travel stuff. There seems to be some war. There's two factions that are fighting each other. And then there's this sort of culling happening in the moment, which is the revelation aspect, right? And it's pretty unclear. It's very, very surface level. You kind of understand that there's a bunch of stuff happening, but you really don't know why or when or how. And I hope that this gets explained more, and I'm sure it will. But for this book specifically, the world building is only significant enough for you as a reader in terms of opening up questions, not in terms of telling you anything meaningful, right? In terms of artwork and fan service, the art is fun. It's not my favorite style though, and the colors are really great. I really like them a lot. There is no fan service, and I'm thankful for that, because these are like, 12 or 13-year-old girls that are drawn that way, not like in manga and anime where they're drawn like adult women. And so it's good that there is none of this at all. Although some of the future characters might end up having some of that. I'm not really sure what Brian K. Vaughan's kind of vibe is usually, because I haven't read too much of his stuff. I read one of, his stories, which was the Pride of Baghdad, which is a story about animals. And then I read a bit of Why the Last Man. And, I feel like Why the Last Man, written by anyone else would have gone a different way than how it does. And then Saga is supposed to be a romance story. So there is sex and stuff in that, because that's kind of the point of the story. So I'm not really sure if there's going to be any, fan service or any kind of sexual content in this story. I assume not, but we'll see. But there was none in this volume, so it's pretty safe to read for kids and stuff like that. But I don't think they would enjoy it, and I don't necessarily think that adults would want their kids to read this, because it's pretty grotesque. There's a lot of stuff, and things that are a bit too complicated for kids. Teenagers would probably enjoy this though. So yeah, in terms of rating wise, it's 5 out of 5. It's good, it's quick, it's very compelling. It's a bit confusing, but that's confusing in a good way. It's enjoyable. It's something that you want to read more of. So I liked it. I thought it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 because even though I don't necessarily like the art style, the artwork or the art aspect of this is valuable to me because it feels cool and interesting and compelling, and it had me feeling stuff. Even if I don't necessarily like the styling of it, I think that it's good in every other aspect and good enough in every other aspect that it basically becomes a perfect score for me. Otherwise, if the art would have been significantly worse, I would have done like a 4 out of 5 for this story. But it was overall quite good. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Paper Girls Volume 1. If you've read this story before, let me know what you think. Let me know what you like about it or what you dislike about it if you read or watched the TV show. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys later.